Hi, my name's Karen Brower. I'm a decorative artist from Australia who for the last 12 months has been doing live videos on my Facebook page, Karen Brower Pearly Designs. Well, I've decided to bite the bullet and do some videos for my YouTube channel, Karen Brower Designs. Over the next 5 weeks on my Facebook page, I'll be doing a different little owl cutout. And later that day on my YouTube channel, I'll post a video of me painting the same little face on a round bauble. You can paint along with me, you can watch the video at your leisure, or you have the option of purchasing my e-pattern off my Etsy store, Karen Brower Designs. Woodwork is available from me in Australia and from Pinecraft Inc. in the USA. If you like this video, please push subscribe as my YouTube channel is free. Thank you so much for joining me for my first YouTube video. Let's get painting. Now, the first little owl that we're going to do is, I call him the red-winged owl. So we're going to do him on the little bauble. This is the one that's going to be on the YouTube, or sorry, on my Facebook page. Now, first thing that you can do is base coat your little bauble in white. Paint the little top bit in gold. You can do these on little coasters if you like. I have the pattern here, tracing. I position it on. Use some graphite paper. Pop that underneath. Make sure it's the right way. And using a stylus, I like to use a stylus. Push down quite firmly. And I just trace over the design. Okay, see, then he comes up. So we're ready to base coat him in. Base coat him in milk chocolate, Tuscan red, warm beige, lamp black and titanium white. I use Deco Art colours, Deco Art paint, the Deco Art Americana brand. It's my favourite. I think it's the best paint that's out there. So once we've got him all blocked in, we're going to start painting him. Now, a lot of you may have already painted with me, but I'll try and go through some of the techniques that we're using in case you're a total beginner as well. So I've already put out my colours onto my paint palette, and the first colour that I'm going to get is Bittersweet Chocolate, which is a dark brown. And I'm going to load up, side load, an angle shader. I'm just going to tip it into a bit of that colour. And I'm going to just blend it back and forth so that I'm getting what's called a float. And I'm going to come around the eyes and I'm going to float dark shadows in. Okay, I'm going to pick up a bit more and blend it. I'm going to float around the eye. I'm also going to come in just at these little angle points here and bring some shadows in. I'm also going to come in under the beak, under the eyes, under the beak, and bring some shadow in. Now, I've got that bittersweet chocolate on my brush, but I'm now going to pick up just a little bit of milk chocolate and I'm just going to blend it into that bittersweet chocolate, make a little bit of a lighter value, and I'm going to come and float some of that shadow onto the top of the eyelid. He's got big droopy eyes. Come and bring that under the eyelid, top of the eyelid here. giving him those big droopy eyes. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown. And I'm just going to come in and float shadows down this side of the beak. And I'm going to come and float some shadows down. Sorry, I'm just going to turn my work a bit. Get my hand in the way. Just down this side of the beak as well. Now, my brushes that I use are Dynasty brushes, and my particular favourite brush is a Dynasty 200. I tend to do a lot of my dry brushing with this brush. A lot of my designs, I float shadows in, float washes in, float the darker values in, and then I come back with the mid values and the highlights and I dry brush them in. Now, if you're a little bit messy like me, I'm just going to come back with a little bit of titanium white, and I'm just going to bring some white back into my little eyeballs there because I've got a little bit of colour. I'm not the best. Well, that one's even worse. Just use a Q-tip and get rid of that. I'm quite a messy floater. I like uneven floating, often for my technique. Just fixing that up a little bit where I made a bit of a mess. Okay. Let's bring back a little bit of shadow back in there. Okay. And now, while we're waiting for it to dry, I actually might come and bring a little bit of shadow onto his red wings. So I'm going to get a little bit of Napa red, which is like a burgundy, and I'm going to add just a touch of black to it to make it a really dark burgundy. And I'm just going to come under his eyeball here, create a shadow, and I'm just going to come under his eyeball here and bring a shadow down. And I'm doing this just while I'm waiting for the colours to dry. I've actually put out some vintage brass, which is a darker gold, that I like to come and add a little bit of bittersweet chocolate to make it into like a real shadow gold. And I'm just going to add a little bit of colour onto the top of my little, separating my bauble here. And across here. So I'm sort of adding my shadows in areas while I'm waiting for these other areas to dry a little bit. I'm going to pick up a little bit of milk chocolate, and I'm just going to pick up some honey brown and mix some of that in. And I'm using my Dynasty 200 here. You can see that I'm making like what I call a loading zone. So I'm not picking up that paint really thickly. Now I've got some paper towel here so that you can see. I tend to use paper towel or a towel, and I tap off that excess paint. Okay. And then I'm going to start to looking at the direction, dry brush some highlights in. Okay, tapping it in, looking at the direction. So when you've got that brush loaded first, you're going to come in and add the light Brush is loaded here. And then as we're coming down into that shadow, there's less paint on that brush. I'm turning my work as I bring it up into here. I'm turning that work, softening it in. I'm going to have it on. I like to pull my brush towards myself. So you can see when I'm pulling it towards myself. I'm going to add some light onto these big eyelids here. Add some light. You can hear that I'm dry brushing. You can actually probably even hear the noise that it's making as I'm bringing it down. I'm going to add just a touch of white to this mix. And I'm going to bring some more highlights in. You can see I don't have a lot of paint on that brush. Use it, wipe it onto paper towel, onto your towel if you need to. Scratching it on. Coming down along this bit too. I'm going to add some more highlights into his little tummy area. Scratching it in. I'm going to add some onto these little eyelids again. I'm just going to reload my brush. Mix up a bit more colour. And dry brush it on. I'm going to add just a few more little highlights up on the top of his head here. Just dry brushing it. I always say I love this technique because I don't think you can really go too wrong, because we can come back okay. Just cleaning out my brush. So now I'm going to come back with some of this bittersweet chocolate, and I'm just going to mix some milk chocolate with it. But if you've got dark chocolate, you could put some dark chocolate out. And I'm going to come and just bring back some shadows. This is the one great thing. If you go too light, or if you put colour where you may not want it to be, we can come back and bring shadows. But every time I bring shadows back, I float them back in. So I'm bringing some shadows back in. You can use your dark chocolate or a mix of bittersweet chocolate and milk chocolate. So I'm sort of looking at where I want to bring some colour back. If I went a bit light. It's like I'm just giving a slight tint. It's quite watery, the paint. I just want to tap a bit of colour back. I'm a fiddler. I do like to fiddle. Sometimes you just have to know when to stop fiddling, don't you? That's the worst part, isn't it? I think we've all done that one fiddle that you think, why did I do that? I should not have touched that. Okay, if I need to come a little bit darker here, I'm going to bring some colour back underneath his little beak as well, under his eyes here. And I'm also going to bring a little bit of shadow back onto his eyelids. And I like to, you can use dark chocolate. I tend to like to brush mix the paint, like use a bit of bittersweet chocolate and the milk chocolate. I like variant. I like the paint to be different. It doesn't all have to be the exact same value. So just bring back a little bit of colour there. And of course, I'm going to wait for it to dry. I'm going to come into a little round brush now. And I'm just going to bring a little bit more burnt sienna into his little beak. And I'm going to pick up on that little round brush a little bit of warm beige. But look, I don't overload the brush. I even flatten it a bit like a knife so that I can just come in and dry brush with it. I really use it just on the tip of the brush. And I'm going to come in and just lighten up some highlights onto his little beak. You can make this beak as big as small as you like. Need to bring a bit of shadow back. I've just picked up a little bit of burnt sienna back onto that brush, and I'm just going to darken it a little bit. I'm just waiting for that brown to dry. I'm going to pick up some Tuscan red on this round brush, and I'm just going to bring in some highlights. Just tapping some. There's not much of the red wing showing there. So I've got a little bit of red on his eye. I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to pick up now some red alert. And I'm going to lighten these little wings. Picking up just a little bit of red alert. Now you can do the wings in blue, purple, pink, any colour that you may like. I'm also going to come back with some of that white. And if I need to, just come back and touch up this little white eye. Come and just touch that up a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm going to touch that up just a little bit. Doing acrobatics with the paintbrush. There you go. Okay, while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to pick up some 24 karat gold, my favourite gold, and I'm going to just start to highlight the top of the bauble, just a little bit of highlight up the top here as well. I sort of look at areas where I'm going to work. That's dry. Now I'm going to come back in my dry brush and I'm going to pick up milk chocolate with a little bit of bleach sand. or you can do the milk chocolate with the honey brown and a touch of white. We just want to go a lighter value. I'm just going to pick it back up again, and I'm going to lightly dry brush. And if you're not seeing it enough, add a bit more white to it. And my brush is really vertical, and I'm just doing a really soft touch. Don't bring it all the way up. I'm going to bring it again on this little eyeball. Lie this across the top of the eyeball lid here. Pick up some highlights down onto his chest. Bring some of that highlight into the top of his head. Now he's your little owl, and you honestly can make him as light or dark as you like. I've painted so many of these little guys, and they all have different little personalities. Some can be lighter, some can be darker. He's a little fantasy owl, so it really doesn't matter. I wouldn't say he was a realistic owl. We'll do some of them later in the lessons, but this little guy's just a little bit of fun. Go lighter again. Adding more white to your mix. And having that brush, take the excess paint out, just softly touching it. Walking it up onto that little eyelid. I'm just really tickling it, like I'm just softly touching. Doing a bit of finger painting there as well. I'm going to lighten some bits down here. So I'm just making a bit more mix. I'm just going to lighten. Some little bits down on his little chest. And I'm just going to bring some light back up to the top of his little head. I hope my hand's not too much in the way, sorry. Just softly touching. See how vertical my brush is? It's a light little touch that I'm doing. Sorry, I'm just going to turn my work. Do you notice that I turn? So get that hand position where I like it. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the light. We can always add a little bit more white to it and just go a little bit lighter on the top of his eyelids, because we like those just to be looking nice and round. And okay. I'm going to get some lamp black now, and I'm going to make it a soft wash. Don't make it too strong. I'd rather just wait for it to dry and come back and strengthen. And I'm going to float the shadow across his eye. We're hooding his eye or under those. Maybe I'll add a bit more shadow just up the top up on this bauble too. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to get my liner and into some watery lamp black. And I'm going to lightly line his little beak. I'm going to give him a couple of little breathe holes on his little beak. Really, again, doing this just while I'm waiting for it to dry. I'm going to come with a little bit more black. I'm just going to deepen some of those little shadows. There we go. The darker that shadow is, the more hooded his eye can be. I'm also going to come with my liner. And you can use whatever liner is your favourite liner. And I'm just going to lightly come and add a little black line around his little eye. Now, if you do that, where you've got a little bit of colour there where you might not want it, don't wipe it away, just wait for it to dry. So coming around. Of course, I like to turn my work so that my hand is pulling towards me. The stroke does. Just bringing that black lightly around. Now here where I made a little mistake, I'm going to come back with some more white. See, and I can pull it in and fix it. So rather than be wiping it, worrying about it, I know I can come back and bring that white back. And bring it back. Okay. You can also come with more white. If your float's a little bit messy, you can come back and add more white into this light area of the eye. I'll come back and add some more white into this light area of the eye. Now I've only got a little bit of paint on my brush, and I'm just going to dry brush a little bit of white highlight between like 1 and 5 o'clock. It's just light dry brush. Actually, while I've got a bit of white on here, I'm just going to add a little bit more highlight to that beak. And then where the pupil and the iris meet, or the white of the eye meet, at about 9 o'clock, I suppose, 9 or 10 o'clock, I'm just going to tap in white highlights. So you can go lighter if you need. You can look at your dry brush and go, okay, I want to add a bit more white. Or if you want to refloat a bit more shadow, you can refloat a little bit more shadow. I'm just adding that little shine of a highlight up on there. I'm going to come onto them. I'm just going to lighten up maybe his little eyelids just a little bit more. I think once they're looking at you, you can actually come in and go, oh, I want a bit more light here, or I don't want a bit more light, or I do. I'm going to come with a little bit of white highlight onto the top of that bauble. Now, with your little wings, you can even brighten them with the neons. They do a really lovely fiery red. Or you can even add glitters, and Deco Art have the best glitters. They have this new hologram illusions, and they have the galaxy glitter in red. You can glitter over your little red wings. Choice is yours. Varnish with your favourite varnish. I like, again, the Duracoat Soft Touch varnish. There's now glitter varnishes, lots of different ones that Deco Art have that you could put over your little ornament. I often just paint the black in reds, and you can write names on for children. Whatever you might like to do. It's a lovely little gift. Thank you so much for joining me for my first YouTube video. Please hit subscribe for my channel, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.